It's an idea I had for a long time to do like a classic 1939-ish, 1940 something Batman. Building materials being mostly leather for like the breastplate and the backplate and the main parts of the armor and stuff. What I liked about Batman Begins, and I think that's when I came up with the idea, it was basically seeing him like create his bat suit himself, like in his millionaire Batcave shop. Kind of tabled it and got distracted with making historical armor for many, many years, and then finally I'm just like, why not bring this back? Because a new Batman movie is coming out in March, so why not, you know? What I think is fun about this version of Batman is this the one where he's depicted in the comics as like having guns and stuff, you know? Which I think is pretty interesting, you know, to see Batman with a firearm, because he typically doesn't use those kind of things in the modern versions of Batman. And so for the pistol I chose in 1911, this is an airsoft, Japanese, like kind of a high-end gas blowback pistol I've had for like 20 years. Put some real grips on it recently and kind of added to the detail, making it look authentic, but it's got like full Colt trays and everything on there. It's actually mostly plastic, which is kind of crazy because it doesn't read on camera as plastic. It's really a high-end piece. They're hard to find these days. The concept would be kind of like a 1940s Kevlar covered in, leather. I looked up neoprene and discovered that it was actually made by DuPont in 1930. I thought it would, look a hell of a lot better than like a rubber wetsuit or something like that, you know. I just took a Batman mask off the shelf, I think from the new movie, and I just shaped leather around the front of it. And then since leather doesn't form other materials, you can do some things to it. So I just kind of made the ears a little different. But it's a cool look. I'm pretty happy with it. So this is like, I think it's 8 to 9 ounce leather. It's a lot thinner than I usually make armor out of. But I want this to be able to really have some good muscle shape in it. So I'm choosing it for that, but also I made the helmet out of similar stuff. And I cut everything by hand, just using, a tiny little craft blade. And I'll switch this blade out because I'm cutting paper with it, so I'll switch it out for a fresh one. And usually shapes like this, I'll probably break the blade once or twice and have to replace. With this, you're cutting it, shaping it, and then letting it dry, and then staining it. So there's a kind of a line of a process there. I use this stuff that's USMC black, which is like Marine Corps black. It's a really, 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 really good black. And it tends to also harden up the leather quite a bit as well, which is, in this case, what we want to do with the breastplate and backplate. It's good stuff. What you want to do is get the most even coat you can get on it, like right away. I was a decent artist when I was a kid. Like I could draw okay, but I kind of lost that. I don't really draw much anymore, and I don't, like for this whole set, I didn't do a single sketch or anything. I just kind of went with what's in my head. And that's kind of an unusual way to design things, especially when you're a costume designer. So for this, I use a chocolate-colored Febrings alcohol-based stain, and I water it down a lot. And I found that the chocolate color kind of like is the color that has the least amount of like reds and purples and stuff in it. So it's more of just like a pure brown. Got a job at this costume shop in Arlington, my hometown. But they had all these leather tools, so I was like, hey, can I have a little bit of a budget to go to the leather store and get some leather and learn some leather stuff? And they were like, yeah, sure, why not? So I think like on $100, I went and got a couple, like a cheap hide of leather and some rivets and some buckles and stuff and some stain, and just kind of taught myself. And then eventually I was like, all right, I think I've learned enough to make a Han Solo belt, and came out pretty good. And then they liked it, and I made 3 or 4 more for them. Years later, I decided to sell that Han Solo belt I made that I still had on eBay, and it went for like $360 to some guy in Japan. And then I realized there was like a market for it, and then all of a sudden people were messaging me asking for a Han Solo belt. So that's kind of how my leatherwork career started. And then I did a lot of replica armor from Gladiator and Spartacus, and I really enjoy the actual craft of, cutting veg tan leather and shaping it and staining it and making it into something. So this is the utility belt so far. So it's gonna have the holster, like right there. And then I think I'm gonna do these mag pouches on the other side. Depending on how many I can fit, I'll probably do 2. So both pairs of them there, or 1 pair and 1 pair of cuffs. And I'm debating whether or not to put like CO2 cylinders, something like that. It's kind of a nice Batman look. 2 to 3 of them. This buckle I'll put on it over like that, then we'll have some kind of attachment, probably just a key post screw that'll screw onto the front of the belt. And I'll put a Batman logo on there. The holster is a World War II style M7 drop down holster as opposed to like a chest holster. And just put these on here for nice effect, you know, decoration, kind of looks cool. That's how I like to do dummy ammunition, is straight off you can tell it's been used. The primers have been struck multiple times, it looks like, in some of them, so they've been used in revolver probably. But I'll probably come in and run a little steel wool over it to kind of give it a little character, like fade it a little bit, you know, so it's not so sharp. All right, so this is the bat suit complete. This is our first photo shoot with it and first like full suit up that we're about to do here with our model, Mr. Dillon. What I've added since last time is this kind of this gorget plate here that's glued and sewn onto the hood. I've added, I would consider this maybe like a very late period chainmail, if it really existed in history at all, really. But I had a scrap of it, so I put it on there. Did the shoulder things, the pauldrons, yesterday and today, and they're very kind of Star Wars-y looking, which I'm kind of okay with. There are definitely some Star Wars elements to this design. The back is pretty basic and simple, but I added a couple straps to just kind of help the armor stay together. The utility belt straps into the whole thing and helps hold the bottom of the armor together. And the cape is just some nice wool that I found. The cape just kind of straps into the, kind of like a Roman way they would do it with Roman armor, with a stud or a brooch as opposed to a snap. These little capsules here are left over from Mandalorian. I had a few left over, so I put them in there instead of the CO2 that I had.